Astronautics has always been a dream for many people around the world. Going into space and conducting scientific experiments in zero gravity is incredibly interesting, but do not forget that astronauts spend an average year of their lives on a space station. During this time they have to do a lot of strange things. Why are socks one of the most important things in space? How do astronauts go to the toilet, sleep and get their haircut in zero gravity? In this video on Mogol TV, we will show the secrets of astronauts that you did not know about. One of the most interesting aspects of astronaut life on a space station is hygiene. In normal life on Earth, we don't pay much attention to it because we are used to taking a shower, going to the toilet, or brushing our teeth every day. Few people think of such mundane things and they think of a heroic expedition into space, but astronauts continue to do it all while in orbit in weightlessness, and it's hard. It is impossible to wash with water from the shower, as we used to do on Earth. In zero gravity, the water would simply scatter balls throughout the station. Here, completely terrestrial technologies came to the aid of the astronauts. For people in hospitals who, for one reason or another, cannot take a shower, special types of soap and shampoo have been invented that do not need to be washed off with water. Such soap and shampoo are used on the space station. Astronauts can wash themselves with special wet wipes. Unlike taking a shower, brushing your teeth in zero gravity is not much different from this procedure on Earth. Astronauts use ordinary toothpaste and brush. But how do they rinse their mouths? Where do they spit out water and toothpaste? Astronauts collect water from special bags with a straw, rinse their mouths with water, and then swallow. Many of them do the same thing with toothpaste, they just swallow it. Some people use special rags to spit in. Now you know which professions swallow the most toothpaste in a lifetime. Continuing with the topic of hygiene, it is impossible not to talk about the toilet. It will come as a surprise to many that the most common questions asked of astronauts are not about UFOs or feelings of weightlessness. The most popular question from internet users: how do I go to the bathroom on a space station? And this is not surprising, because on Earth we are helped by gravity, but in zero gravity, the natural waste products of the human body will simply fly in different directions. Therefore, the toilet on the space station is equipped with a special pump that sucks excrement. And now I will tell you the astronaut's darkest secret. The fact is that the construction of toilets in space is slightly different from our earthly one. The hole in the space toilet, on which they directly sit, is very small, literally 15 centimeters in diameter. Therefore, even before the flight, astronauts conduct special training on Earth to learn how to use a space toilet. During training, a special camera is inserted into a hole inside the toilet that transmits an image to the screen. The astronaut sits on this hole and sees the image of his ass on the monitor screen and controls the whole process. It's not the most pleasant sight in life. Wouldn't you agree? Few people like to do the cleaning, but we have to do it to keep the place we live in clean. Even though astronauts spend all of their expedition time in an extremely small space, they must also keep it clean and tidy. For example, they regularly wash walls, portholes, and other objects. For this purpose, astronauts use special cleaning cloths or a space vacuum cleaner. In principle, it is similar to the vacuum cleaners we use at home. In addition, it has a hose that allows you to clean even those areas of the space station that are difficult to reach by hand. Astronauts can also use the vacuum cleaner to catch objects accidentally released from their hands and sent free-floating in zero gravity. In addition, the vacuum cleaner helps astronauts to cut their hair. To keep unwanted hair from flying around the station, a tube is attached to the clipper that sucks up all unwanted hair. Speaking of small parts that fly on a space station, our skin is constantly renewing itself. Think about it, the average person loses about 18 kilograms of skin in a lifetime, and this process is especially active on the feet. In normal life, thanks to gravity, we often don't notice the skin falling off, but in weightlessness, all the unwanted skin will fly in the air. The renewal process is particularly active on our feet. This is one of the reasons why socks are an incredibly important part of the closet in the space. Astronauts spend most of their time wearing socks, they rarely take them off, and they do it incredibly carefully so that as few skin particles from their feet as possible are scattered around the station. Astronauts use socks for other purposes, such as sleeping. It would seem that falling asleep in dark and quiet space is wonderful, but it is not. First, to overcome the lack of gravity, astronauts have to sleep in special bags attached to the walls of the station so that they do not fly away while sleeping. Of course, no pillow is provided in orbit. Agree that sleeping without this object is quite problematic. That's why many astronauts use socks. They take a pair of thick socks, fold them and put them under their head to imitate the presence of a pillow. However, the lack of a pillow is not the main problem for a good sleep in space. Just imagine that astronauts meet sunrise or sunset 16 times a day. Every 90 minutes day turns into night or vice versa. It is very difficult to get used to this sleep schedule. If you thought it was quiet in space and you could sleep soundly, you were wrong. In outer space, of course, it is quiet, but on the space station it is incredibly noisy. The constantly running instruments and life support systems are very loud, so astronauts use earplugs, which still do not save 100% of the noise. But there are positive aspects of sleeping in orbit. For example, no one snores there. Even people who have big problems with it on Earth stop snoring in zero gravity. In general, weightlessness affects the human body in an incredible way. Just imagine what a brain accustomed to gravity experiences when in one moment the body ceases to have weight. This is called space adaptation syndrome. Our brain's ability to navigate in space depends entirely on gravity, but when it is not there, the brain begins to experience difficulties. Therefore, the first 2 or 3 days after arrival at the station, astronauts begin to experience nausea, dizziness, and even hallucinations. After a few days, the process of adapting to weightlessness passes, and the symptoms disappear. If the brain eventually manages to get used to the absence of gravity, the muscles have a hard time. On Earth, we struggle with gravity and use our muscles every day to walk, stand up, sit down, and perform other physical actions. But in space, the body loses weight and muscles are no longer needed. Even the spine and bones weaken because they no longer need to support the body. To cope with this situation, astronauts have to exercise intensively. Every day they spend several hours on the machines. Such long workouts help keep their muscles and bones in good shape. However, despite training, astronauts cannot avoid body changes in weightlessness, such as the spine beginning to straighten. Under normal conditions on Earth, a person's spine is curved, even if you don't have scoliosis, but in space it straightens out, making astronauts in orbit about 5 centimeters taller than they actually are. Astronauts also suffer from the chicken legs phenomenon. Because the legs in weightlessness do not store as much blood as they do on Earth, the excess blood collects in the upper body, making it appear larger than the legs. Therefore, the astronauts called this phenomenon chicken legs. One of the main threats to the health of astronauts is so-called space radiation. On Earth, we are protected from this phenomenon by the planet's atmosphere. Without it, the space actually turns into a microwave oven operating at extremely low power. Of course, this cannot but affect the human body and brain. This is why astronauts do not spend very long on an expedition, on average a year. And finally, an interesting fact about spacesuits, the most famous item of clothing for astronauts. On average, a spacesuit weighs about 120 kilograms. Of course, it is not easy to put it on, so the astronauts spend about 40 minutes putting it on. Don't forget to like the video if you like it. Subscribe to Mogol TV and click on the bell to be notified of new videos. And leave your comments.